Welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical and week 3 of the Mark 18 build series. And this thing is coming along nicely now. So in the first couple weeks, the first week, we literally just had a stripped Daniel Defense Mark 18 upper receiver. Last week, we didn't have all the parts that I wanted yet, but we had the ASR muzzle device, which allowed us to put our suppressor on, the Otter Creek Labs Polonium K, and we also had the Unity riser for the optic, but the optic hadn't showed up yet. We also had the charging handle, and I had these sights that I had laying around that I'd thrown on here. And we're going to talk about that today because at this point, I'm not sure I'm going to keep them, but I might. We've also added a lot of other new stuff. This thing is starting to look the way that I wanted it to, so make sure you're subscribed. And let's talk about what we've added in week 3. We've got a lot of new stuff that we've added in week 3 of the build series. And the first one that is probably the most obvious just looking at it is the optic. And this is an EoTech EXPS 2-0. Now the EXPS has your standard circle dot EoTech reticle. See if I can get it on camera. There it is. And I love that reticle. It's a big reason why I choose EoTech. It's that circle dot reticle is just really good for fast target acquisition and just, quick moving from target to target. I absolutely love it. What's the difference between the EXPS and the XPS model that I have on my dream rifle build, the 14.5 pin and weld? Well, the EXPS is QD. So it has this lever here so you can take your optic on and off very quickly and easily. It also sits up a little higher because it's on that QD. So the XPS model, if it's mounted on your standard, Picatinny top rail, it sits at an absolute co-witness sight with standard iron sights. The EXPS model sits at a lower 1/3 co-witness. So if I was going to use the Unity flip to center mount, which sits at a 2.26 inch optical center height, they use different Unity mounts. And so pay attention to this if you're looking to do a similar thing with your optic. If you have an EXPS model with the QD, you want the regular Unity fast mount. It's actually the smaller mount because the optic is taller to get to that 2.26 center optical height. If you're using an XPS series that doesn't have the QD, you actually want the taller Unity mount, which is the Unity absolute co-witness mount. It looks similar, but it is taller, and that will get your optic center height to that same height so that if you're using the flip to center mount for your magnifier, it will be at the correct height for you. So pay attention to that. If you're getting an EoTech, if you're getting a Unity riser, make sure you get the correct riser for the model of EoTech that you're using. That is very important. I'd like to thank Aura, which is the sponsor of this video. Firearms can protect you and your family and your household from a lot of threats and provide you with a certain amount of security. Well, Aura can provide you with security from the things that you don't see and protect you from those threats. I've been using it for a few months now. When I first got it, I Googled my name and there was a lot of stuff that came up. And then I signed up with Aura and I watched as they took each and every one of those things off of the internet so that my information wasn't out there anymore. They do a lot of things, including identity and credit monitoring, password manager, antivirus protection. They have a VPN, home title monitoring, and then the big one is data broker removal. As you guys probably already know, scammers are a huge part of life now, which really sucks. But the way that they get your information is from data brokers. And Aura goes out there and they find those data brokers that have your information and they submit opt-out requests on your behalf, removing your information off the internet so that scammers don't have access to you anymore. The big thing that it's helped me with is I don't get spam calls anymore, and I've noticed that over these last few months that I've been using it. I just have stopped getting spam calls. If you want to support this channel, Sawtooth Tactical, the best way to do that is to sign up for Aura. You get 2 weeks free if you use my link, which is aura.com/sawtoothtactical. And then it's only $12 a month for all of those things that I listed earlier. I really appreciate what Aura has done for the channel. And I appreciate that they sponsor firearms related channels. It says a lot to me about who they are. I value my privacy and I also value yours. And of course, we got the EoTech, the black with the tan hood, because everything I'm going to do on this build is going to be black and tan. It's going to kind of be a 50 shades of FDE, but also with a lot of black. Similar to how I did this build with black and OD green, this one's going to be black and flat dark earth. So we got the tan hood on the EoTech. We got the FDE Unity riser. And you're going to notice some other FDE stuff on here as well. We already had the FDE Radian Raptor charging handle last week, and we're going to do a Radian Talon ambidextrous safety set at 45 degrees because that's how I've set up all of my rifles. But we're going to get to the lower here soon as it comes in, actually. But for now, we actually finally got the bolt carrier group in. So this is very important as well. This bolt carrier group, this is a Microbest chrome bolt carrier group. Now, my original plan was to use the same BCG that I used in this build, which is the BCM Ion Bond tan bolt carrier group. But of course, just like what happened with my Griffin armament lower, I waited too long, and when I was ready to order it, it was out of stock. Well, Microbest OEMs BCM. They make bolt carrier groups for Sons of Liberty Gunworks for a bunch of the kind of higher end, very high quality brands. And so you can get an actual Microbest bolt carrier group and it costs less than a BCM or a Sons of Liberty bolt carrier group, but it's the same damn thing. So this one is their all hard chrome BCG, but it's got a phosphate extractor. Chrome is pretty slick and it's very hard, very durable. So it's great to have a chrome BCG, but you want something a little bit more grippy for your extractor, right? And so the extractor is phosphated while the rest of it is chromed. These BCGs are really good and I've kind of always wanted to get one. And so I'm glad I got one for this build. I ordered it from Rooftop Defense. That company is super cool. They send you like a personalized note. They send you a pocket constitution, which is over there. And they also send you a pack of ramen because they understand how expensive this hobby is and that you still have to eat. But what else have we added this week? Well, for one, so the Mark 18 upper comes with these Picatinny rail covers. And while they kind of started growing on me, when I first got them, I was like, those are coming off immediately. And then I left them on for a couple weeks and I kind of started to like them. But the thing is that they are very thick. And so you already have a thick handguard and those just make it even bigger. And so what I did is I ordered these Magpul rail ladders in, again, flat dark earth, 50 shades of FDE kind of deal going on here. And the cool thing about them is that you can cut them to size, to kind of move them around and do whatever you want. And so I put on the Emissary handbrake. This is the Picatinny version. And I've got the M-Lock version in OD green on that build, Picatinny and flat dark earth for this build. And the cool thing about these rail ladders is, I cut one to cover the whole bottom rail, but still leave room to mount the Emissary handbrake. Now, why did I choose the Emissary handbrake? Well, for one, it works great for the way I shoot. I shoot with a C-clamp grip, but I like to have some kind of vertical type foregrip to pull the rifle back into my shoulder. And the Emissary handbrake does that very well. I don't grip a foregrip like this. I grip it like this, and this one just feels good. It's got great angles on it. It's got great texture on it. I think it's a very high quality piece of kit and I like it a lot. I really kind of fell in love with it shooting this gun. And so I went with it on this. And I know that it is not clone correct. You know, most people are going to use some kind of vertical foregrip on a Mark 18, like the Knight's Armament Stubby, or the other one. I can't think of the name of it right now. But there's a very classic looking one that usually is found on Mark 18s. I went with this instead because, like I said, we're not doing this exactly clone correct. I do want to have that very pretty classic, you know, Block 2 Mark 18 look. But again, I'm going to use the things that I like because I'm going to be the one shooting this gun. And so I like this foregrip, you know. I also like my optics up on a riser. I just think it's a more comfortable way to shoot, to be more heads up. You know, you have better situational awareness. And so that's what we're doing. Well, speaking of the riser again, part of the issue, or part of the reason that I used this, was so that I could use my G33 magnifier and switch it between these guns, you know, at least until I decided that I could afford to get, you know, another magnifier specifically for this gun. Well, the problem with this, and with the iron sights that I currently have, is that I can't make this go all the way down. And so that is an issue. And so I do have a decision to make here. Do I even use a magnifier on a 10.3? Is it even worth it? Do I care that much? Or do I just leave the magnifier on my 14.5-inch build, the gun that it was meant for anyway, and run this with just the EoTech? Either way, I'm still happy to have my optic on a riser because, like I said, it's just a more comfortable way to shoot for me. And then if I do decide to do that, well, one of the reasons that I went with the EXPS is because it's QD. So even though the optic is on a riser and you can't co-witness your iron sights through the optic window, you know, if something were to happen, the optic were to go down in some way, I could pull it off very quickly with the QD lever and still use my iron sights as intended as backup iron sights. But how much do I even care about backup iron sights? I used to put them on every single gun, but I've never ever had to use them except for the very first time I take them out and zero them. Are they even worth having? And we did do a short about this last week, and most people think yes, every gun should have backup iron sights. I used to think the same thing, and I'm starting to not really be sure. But if I am going to have backup sights and I'm not going to use the magnifier, well, now I'm thinking I might as well get the Daniel Defense fixed backup iron sights. Now, they're still going to be out of the way of my optic window, so it won't cloud my sight picture in any way. And so that's kind of nice. And then if I did need to use them, I don't have to flip them up. I just got to get the dang optic out of the way. Plus, the Daniel Defense sights would look really good on a Mark 18. They match this color of the rail, and I mean, they just look good. They're not cheap though. They're about 150 bucks. So do I do that? Do I use the backups I got? Do I just forego backup iron sights and be able to use the magnifier when I want it? Or do I just run a front backup iron sight and not a rear? And then, you know, kind of point shoot and use that as a point of reference if I ever have to use them, which again, I probably never will have to use them. So, you know, is it money worth spending or not? That's something that I got to figure out. I do have a lot of new stuff coming next week. Actually, not a lot of new stuff, but one thing that I'm very excited about that'll basically finish up the upper receiver build. And so next week's going to be, in my opinion, a very exciting episode. So I hope you guys are stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe to Sawtooth Tactical because don't want to miss any episodes of the Mark 18 build series. It seems like people are enjoying it so far. And so I appreciate every single one of you guys that is tuning in each week for this build series. Everyone that gives me a like, that leaves me a comment, you know, all that stuff really means a lot to me. And especially if you subscribe to the channel, all of that really, really does help. Once we get the lower end, which I think we're looking at about 3 weeks now before my local shop gets the Griffin Mark II lower in stock. Then we'll start building out the lower. I have already ordered some of the parts for that as well. This is actually the very first part that I got for the build after I got the stripped upper. I've got a stock coming. I've already made some, I've got a trigger coming. I've got a buffer tube coming because there were some amazing sales over the 4th of July weekend. Geisley had a really good sale. So of course I got a trigger, I got a buffer tube, and they were like half price. And Modlite also had a really good sale. Just giving you an idea of what is coming for the upper next week. But anyway, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. And from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.